Bagel, Nayang, Jimbalungs. G'day friends, my name is John Graham. I'm a Cumbermarry man, a saltwater man of the Gold Coast region. Our people are part of the wider Yugambeh language group, whose lands stretch from the Logan River to the Tweed River in the south, on the other side of the Great Divide, and bordered by the beautiful Pacific Ocean. Cumbermarry people's land from the Goomera, the Coomera River, in the north to the south to the Tweed, and on the inside of the mountain range. I'd like to acknowledge my elders, past, present and emerging, because as I say at all welcomes and acknowledgements, it's important that we acknowledge our old people, because they're the ones that fought the good fight so that people like ourselves could continue that fight into reconciling this nation, so that we leave a legacy for our young people who are the bearers of flame, the keepers of knowledge, and keep the culture strong into the future. I'd like to also pay my respects to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here at the conference, and also I'd like to pay my respects to the Spirit of this land and her people, which includes all of you here today. My authority to speak today comes from Waru, my Apiclay ancestor, through to my father, John Leonard Graham. The Cumbermarry lands were never ceded. Our footprint remains strong here, and we are the traditional custodians of this land. I hope you enjoy the conference and enjoy being together in this place of learning. It's important that we respect the place that you are now, even though it's on televised conference, but it's important that you always respect the place we're in. Respect yourselves, respect others, and enjoy. Anyabu, until we meet again. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Carolyn Evans. I'm the Vice Chancellor and President here at Griffith University, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to our virtual conference. I begin by acknowledging that I'm recording this message on the campus that you would have come to, the Gold Coast campus. It's on the lands of the Cumbermarry Ngunnawal people. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. And I acknowledge that we have much to learn from our Indigenous communities in terms of sustainability. And this came home very forcefully to a lot of Australians in the aftermath of the bushfires which ravaged much of the east coast of Australia over this summer. It's a real pleasure to welcome you here. I wish we could be doing this in person and you could see our beautiful Gold Coast campus. It's covered in gorgeous trees. You can find native Australian wildlife hiding out on the campus. You can follow a walking trail of endangered Australian plants. And if you just jump in the car and drive for 10 minutes, you're on the truly magnificent Gold Coast beaches. And Griffith University researchers have done a lot to keep those beaches sustainable and safe in recent decades. But of course things are otherwise, and while I hope we can welcome you here in person one day, today I'm grateful that you've taken the time to join us for this important conference. This is, as you know, a conference that's been going on for nearly a decade, but the first focused on the Asia Pacific on sustainable development of energy, water and environment systems. I understand that we have researchers particularly from the Asia Pacific, but also beyond. Researchers from universities, NGOs, industry, private partners, government, and many others. You are all very welcome. You're going to be focusing on a really important and interesting set of challenges on how to improve the dissemination of knowledge, methods, policies and technologies for increasing the sustainability of development by decoupling it naturally from growth in natural resources and replacing it with knowledge-based economy, taking into account the economic, environmental and social justice pillars of this. Now, as some of you may know, Griffith has been a leader in environmental studies since its inception in the 1970s. We were one of the first universities in Australia to really focus on this as a major area of research for us, and it's continued to this day. We're proud of the role that we've played in seeking solutions to many of the sorts of problems that you're talking about at the moment, both in science and through policy development and innovative research into realistic and practical ideas and actions. We were also a trailblazer in interdisciplinary teaching and research, and again that was fundamental to our founders in the 1970s. And that's why I'm so pleased that the organisers of this conference have placed an emphasis on holistic, cross-disciplinary and multicultural approaches to solving some of the problems that you're engaged with. We all know ecosystems need diversity to thrive, and our work is around creating sustainable physical and social environments. We need to be dedicated to this, as the challenges we face are growing ever larger all the time. Like you, we at Griffith believe that it is really important to build solutions based around partnerships, including partnerships of all the different kinds of entities which are here with us today. I'm very proud of the work that Griffith staff and students have been doing in this area, and I will just share with you one example from somebody who's been involved in this conference. Dr. Carvalho from the University's Cities Research Institute led a project called Graça, the Remote and Isolated Communities Essential Services, along with PhD researcher Mel Jackson, and in partnership with Ergon Energy, Power and Water, the Torres Strait Regional Council and the Queensland Government. Now, the project was an innovative one. It combined smart metering energy and water technologies with community-based efficiency strategies to achieve reductions in water and energy use in remote and isolated communities. Through engagement with the community, really important, backed up with empirical evidence from smart meters, really important engagement of partners, the team co-developed culturally appropriate, affordable and practical demand management strategies with project participants, which informed a more reliable and resilient essential services model in remote Northern Australia. This is just one example, and you can read many more on our website. I'm sure you'll hear about many more today, where we can see how we can work together in a more sustainable manner, where we collaborate across different interests, different sectors, and do so in a culturally appropriate and respectful way. Let me conclude by again offering you a warm welcome, thanking the organisers for the amazing job that they've done, like so many people having to change and prove their adaptability very quickly and to use new technologies. I do hope that this still proves to be a wonderful conference. Perhaps we'll learn some things by being forced to do things this way that might be useful into the future. I wish you all the best with your discussions, and I'm very happy to declare this conference open.
Welcome to the first Asia-Pacific Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environmental Systems Conference. My name is Professor Rodney Stewart from Griffith University, the chair of the local organising committee. I've attended SDEWES conferences for a number of years, and it gives me great pleasure in hosting the first Asia-Pacific offering of this conference series. In my experience, this conference series is one of the best in the world for interdisciplinary sustainability researchers to come together to share their knowledge on methods, policies and technologies for increasing sustainability of development by decoupling growth from natural resources and replacing them with knowledge-based economy. I feel that the attendees of this conference are working on practical water, energy and environment solutions that will facilitate a feasible transition trajectory to this new sustainable society. I am proud to be part of the SDEWES community. Like many other conference organisers across the entire planet, we were optimistic that we could hold this conference on the beautiful city of Gold Coast in Australia until quite recently. But the global COVID-19 pandemic has turned our collective world upside down and probably changed many aspects of our lives, the way we work and go about daily business forever. But out of this adversity, we can grow, learn, and adapt. Fortunately, we now live in a society that has the digital platforms and means to continue working and collaborating during these periods of isolation and restricted movement. And the SDEWES conference organisers took the bold move to proceed with the first Asia-Pacific Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environment Systems Conference in a virtual mode. While borders are shut and domestic and international travel is restricted, we didn't want this pandemic to stop international researchers from working and sharing our sustainability research and initiatives. This pandemic will pass in time, but the global challenge to mitigate and adapt to climate change will continue for centuries to come. Maybe this current global health challenge will embolden our societies so they are more willing to implement many of the disruptive but sustainable solutions that we as researchers and practitioners are proposing. Around 100 researchers took up the opportunity to join the virtual conference, with remaining delegates opting to attend a postponed second Asia Pacific conference on the Gold Coast in 2021. I commend those people that took up the challenge to quickly prepare a video presentation for the virtual conference. We hope that we have a lively and enjoyable conference in 2021 as researchers emerge from their home offices to once again interact and collaborate in a more personal face-to-face social manner. We will again come to enjoy the SDEWES hospitality we're used to receiving, so I urge you to hang tight until that day comes. Trust me, I am eagerly awaiting to have a social beer with many of you. Isolation beers are just not the same. I would like to take this opportunity to thank various organisations and people that have worked to organise, firstly a land-based and then a virtual conference in the last month. The effort taken by many people to plan and then cancel a land-based conference and then arrange a virtual conference in such a short time is testament to the resilience and adaptive capacity of the SDEWES organisers and its community of researchers. Firstly, I would like to thank the conference organisers from the SDEWES Centre and its key people that have remained calm and collected over the last few months, namely Marco, Nevena, Eva, Tomislav, and of course Neven. A pandemic, earthquake, server troubles, campus shutdowns, to name a few challenges, could not stop these committed conference event organisers from delivering this conference. Well done. I would like to thank the conference organisers, University of Zagreb, Instituto Superior Técnico, and my own Griffith University. I was impressed that our Griffith University Vice-Chancellor still made the time to make a welcome video for this conference, while managing one of the greatest challenging faces the Australian university sector in recent history. The local organising committee, programming committee, scientific committee, and the other various conference committees are all thanked for making contributions to the conference during these challenging times. Thank you to the various people from the Scientific Advisory Board that has spent countless hours reviewing abstracts and final archival papers. I would like to also acknowledge those people that have made efforts to create special sessions, even though we have had to cancel many of them due to abstracts not converting to full papers due to the crisis that was unfolding over the last few months. Hopefully we can reignite interest in many of those special sessions in 2021. I would like to make special mention of the local organisers who have worked and tried hard, people such as Dr. Oz Sahin, Dr. Cara Beale, Dr. Cheryl Desher, Dr. Amelia Supran, and Miss Simone Hilgist, and the various volunteers for your efforts. This local organising team has had a very good practice for a second AP SDEWES conference. We have collectively learned a lot about conference planning and crisis management in a time of change during the last couple of months. I would also like to thank the various sponsors of the first AP SDEWES conference, particularly the City of Gold Coast, that is a silver sponsor. We will also acknowledge these original sponsors in the second AP SDEWES event and hope to attract further sponsors to this next event. By hosting this conference on its original dates of the 6th to the 9th of April 2020 in a virtual platform rather than the usual face-to-face mode, we are showing our fortitude to continue working on the sustainability challenge that will continue to face us long after this and many other societal challenges pass. We will no doubt remember this conference for some time to come due to the events that surrounded it, and will likely kickstart the commencement of a completely new ongoing virtual SDEWES conference each year. I look forward to reading the papers submitted to the conference and listening to the various presentations of authors across the globe. Attendees are encouraged to engage with the virtual Q&A process by posting questions. Authors will be keen to see that others are interested in their research activities and findings and will post responses to your questions, I have no doubt. Archival papers presented at the virtual conference and where authors sufficiently address posted comments during the allocated period will receive invites to special issue journals later in the year, following the normal process of this conference. One positive that will come from the current crisis that will show how environmental systems can improve, if not overly impacted by human activities, that we can work differently in a more minimalistic manner, and that ever-increasing resource consumption is not the best model for a prosperous society. Thank you for listening to my welcome address. I look forward to seeing you in the virtual world in the near future, and hopefully face-to-face in 2021 at the second Asia-Pacific Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environment Systems Conference on the Gold Coast.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, let me begin by saying that it is a great honor to have been invited to give an introductory address at the first Asian Pacific SDEWES Conference on Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environmental Systems. I should like to express my admiration for the achievement of Professor Neven Duić, the main organizer of the conference, and the local organizers in Australia in having managed to organize this conference during such difficult times. I'm aware of all the hard work they have devoted to ensuring that this conference is a success. In my speech today, I should like to begin by outlining something of the nature of the recent development related with COVID-19. The complexity of our global interrelation was evident long before COVID-19 outbreak, but it is now appearing as a Gordian knot that requires urgent reflection and decisive action. There is a deep interdependence between the different regions of the world that brought us many gains, but also new problems like the ones we are now experiencing. Many discussions in Europe have made clear that the European Union needs to develop a continental strategy autonomy. Until now, digital or technology sovereignty was the key component in the political debate around technology autonomy. The COVID-19 crisis is only at its beginning, and we are facing a battlefield where it's hard to understand the economic limits of our actions or the consequence of non-acting. We are entering a new era that someone already called post-globalization, and this will affect the fundamentals of our common living. First, the crisis made clear that the autonomy challenge is not only related to the digital age. We need much stronger policy that increases coordination and develops ways to keep control on strategic areas, having value chains that are related to our essential needs. Moreover, it became blatant how strategic is the role of research, innovation and education in the investment policies of all the political actors. Investing horizontal and constantly in those fields enriches our ability to respond to unforeseen circumstances and it is crucial for ensuring the continuity of our well-being and the progress we are all looking for. Second, to develop the real strategic autonomy, we need to concentrate in key areas of our survival, such as health, food, water, energy, and environment. We cannot repeat mistakes of the past. On the contrary, we must learn from them and be flexible enough to create more local innovation, technological autonomy, without closing ourselves to the world or being protectionists. Many lessons to be learned, many things to do differently, such as make investments in research and education a priority, and concentrate in strategic areas crucial to our survival, such as health, food, water, energy, and environment. And this conference is exactly about three of these topics: energy, water, environment systems, that will be more than ever on the top of everyone's agenda. This brings me to the end of what I want to say to you today, and only remains for me to express the hope that soon we can meet again face to face. I remain optimistic that on the occasion of the second Asian Pacific Conference, we can all meet in beautiful Australia and to celebrate life and science. I wish you all a fruitful and stimulating conference and good health for all. Thank you very much.
Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to welcome you on behalf of SDEWES and on behalf of the World Academy. I would have liked if this use of the rather sophisticated technique was done as much better circumstances rather than the one that we are faced with. Unfortunately, of course, we are faced with really a very significant stress of the entire humankind, and that stress is actually caused by a coronavirus spreading, but it's not only that, it is even a number of other things that are complicated our current situation. What are all of these stresses and how serious they can be? First, of course, we should address the question of the crisis and whether crisis can stimulate paradigm changes. Of course, in many cases, the paradigm changes do not need a crisis to develop. For instance, at the end of the 19th century, physics was not in a crisis. Actually, it was in a pinnacle. There were Maxwell's equation, Boltzmann's theory, and yet paradigm changed. We got quantum physics and theory of relativity. Now, we should ask ourselves, are we presently facing the worst crisis in history? Could this crisis accelerate a necessary paradigm change and strengthen democracy that should be anticipatory, participatory, and stimulating leadership on all levels? Now, what are the problems we are facing? The pandemic, COVID-19, destruction of natural and human capital, global temperature change, global warming, wars, possibly those using weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, migration, and emerging technologies that could have disruptive effects, and they are superimposed on a decreasing confidence in science caused by political leadership. Unfortunately, most of these threats are interconnected, and many we do not fully understand. Our world is global and changing fast, much faster than it changed during the time of the Spanish flu in the beginning of the 20th century or during the plague pandemic. Now, in all of these cases, but particularly in this case, resulting economic consequences could cause recession larger than one of 2008 or even possibly larger than one in 1929. Effects are different in different countries, enlarging already unbearable inequalities. Many books and papers have been written on the question of this crisis. For instance, Harari wrote in The Guardian, "The storm will pass, but the choices we make now could change our lives for years to come." And very recently, on April 3rd, Kissinger wrote in the Wall Street Journal, "The coronavirus pandemic will alter the world order." It is, of course, impossible to predict our future, but as said by late World Academy of Art and Science fellow Serge Matocco, we select our future and we are responsible for this choice. And he emphasizes the future is the moral category. Several academies, Association of Academies and so on, already issued statements. The World Academies, throughout its history, was guided by the slogans "leadership in thought that leads to action" and "striving of the best minds for a solution of present problem and demands for the future." Political leaders, notably the mayor of Seattle, Mrs. Durkan, point out, "Act now and act boldly." Our world changed. Actually, our educational system is already permeated by the MOOCs. Public stronger support health measure than, no matter how restrictive, than a proposed economic reforms. Therefore, paradigmatic changes are necessary. For the last 10 years, the World Academy emphasized the demand for the new, human-centered economic, social, and political paradigm. It requires global leadership, but also on all levels, emphasizing subsidiarity. The world in the future will not be what it was 6 months ago, but a truly new world. Realization of the new paradigm cannot be achieved by superpower or by few outstanding persons. It does require involvement of all of us. These two-pronged actions within existing paradigm and development of new paradigm is now the task of our academies, science, political structure, and of each one of us. As Inter-Academy panel stresses, collaboration based on a whole of governments and on a whole of society. Thank you very much.
I would like to welcome you to the first Asia-Pacific Conference on Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environment Systems. I would like to thank very much to Professors Rodney Stewart and Sahin, who helped us from Griffith University to make this conference happen. Unfortunately, coronavirus pandemic has made this conference physically impossible, but thanks to technology, we are meeting here online. That also brings us another level of complexity to our systems, which is resilience. Apart from the fact that systems should be sustainable, they should also be resilient. We have to be able to survive such a black swan accident that happened with this virus. We have started this conference series about sustainable development of energy, water, and environment systems in 2002 in Dubrovnik, and since then we are trying to see how these things are influencing each other. Why did we decide to start such a wide topic? Well, if you remember, in 1987, UN produced a report, Our Common Future, or so-called Brundtland report, that found out that population, food security, the loss of species and genetic resources, energy industry and human settlements, all of these are very interconnected and cannot be treated in isolation from one another. Therefore, we started in 2002 a conference series which is not specialized in any of these fields, but we are trying to cross-fertilize knowledge from different aspects in order to bring ideas and methods from one field to another field. What are the challenges to sustainable development of water, energy, and environment systems? It is obviously climate change, the biggest problem of today and of the 21st century. It is waste, which is becoming bigger and bigger problem. It is a huge problem of disappearance of species and habitats, because we humans need more and more space. How to solve all these problems? We have to look at them from different sides. It's not simple. Climate change actually brings us some good news. Since maybe 10 years ago, the things have changed dramatically. Now we think that most probably RCP 8.5, which we consider the baseline scenario, then will most probably not happen because we are not going to invest huge amounts of money in coal anymore. It is this scenario that would bring us to 3 to 5 degrees increase of temperature. What now looks more probable as a baseline scenario is RCP 6, but we have to do very quickly a lot of mitigation in order to end up with RCP 1.9, which is what we want to achieve, no more than 1.5 degrees temperature since the pre-industrial times. Well, in European Union, we have decided on a European Green Deal, which means we want to become climate neutral by 2050, which means we want to reduce greenhouse gases by 50 to 55% by 2030. We have already started coal phase out. 20 out of 28 countries in European Union have decided to close all coal power plants by 2030. The ones that are still pondering are the ones that don't have secure energy supply. They're too much dependent on only one source of energy coming to their countries. We have decided to go to electric transport, to electrify transport, to decarbonize heating, and a relatively recent decision is not to have any more fossil fuel infrastructure after 2021. But if we look at scenarios that we have to produce, that will be quite tough. If we look at where we are doing, what we are doing very fine But with current policies, we are going to follow the reference scenario. What we have to do is to go with this green scenario, meaning that in power sector, we have to basically reach zero emissions by 2040. That will be tough, but not impossible. Wind and solar are now cheapest energy sources, and we can probably do it. In the transport sector, we have already started to do the reductions, but we have to very quickly go to zero. By 2040, we have to be nearly zero with emissions from transport, which means because cars in Europe will be used for 15 to 20 years averagely, we have to stop selling them very soon. Some countries already decided to stop selling internal combustion engine cars in 2025. Others are joining in 30, others later, but obviously IC engine cars have no future because they cannot be decarbonized cheaply. Heating sector, heating is very significant sector of energy demand in the European Union because we are relatively cold. It does consume nearly 40% of final energy use. We have to go very quickly down to zero again. By 2040, we have to be very, very close to zero. That means gas heating has no future. We have to turn into decarbonized district heating or electric heating as future of heating in European Union. Another complicated issue is single-use plastics. We are now moving towards the ban of single-use plastics. Other countries around the world are doing the same thing. But papers are showing that some alternative solutions often have higher carbon impact. But one has to take into account that that is quite negligible compared to coal. If we remove coal from our energy system, then we are very well on the good scenarios for the climate change. So we should not use this argument that much. I think that high impact of waste on habitats, on animals, or even on our food is probably more important than on the carbon. But this has to be calculated probably, and we are lacking evidence today. There is not enough papers in this area. We should do more on that. Let's look at another issue which is bothering us, diesel cars. Most of the world does not have personal diesel cars. It's only European specialty. Why did we go into diesel cars? Because they're so efficient. So they're good for climate change. And they're also good for security of energy supply. But on the other hand, they're bad for local pollution, for NOx and particulate matter. Well, now that we have better alternative, hybrid cars, which are better for climate and much better for local pollution, should we continue with diesel cars? We cannot improve them because if we continue reducing CO2, we increase NOx. These are two pollutions that cannot be decreased simultaneously, easily. They can, but then it's very expensive. So basically, we can now abandon diesel for personal cars. When we consider transition out of coal, coal used to be the main energy source in Europe for many years, many decades, maybe even 1.5 centuries. That will mean loss of mining jobs. We will obviously need funding. Transition funding will be necessary. But it is feasible. We just have to find the best ways how to do it. On the other hand, we lack workforce in Europe, so why not using this transition in order to employ people in better sectors, which can have even higher added value. A similar situation, but probably much worse because it employs hugely more people. Coal sector in Germany employs only 20,000 people, but car industry employs much more. Transition in car industry will have potentially huge impact on the European car industry. Can they adapt to electric cars? Maybe yes, maybe not. Definitely they have to switch to new sectors, IT, batteries. Can we employ all these people? Of course, the numbers can easily be done. We can open more jobs in other sectors, but individuals cannot always be easily transferred from mining to IT sector. So individuals will suffer for sure. How to minimize social hardship while doing fast transitions? That's a very huge question in front of us. One other question which is quite important. What if one country starts transition? Can others ignore it? Many results are showing that's not possible because those that start early, they will make benefits early and profit from the results of transition. So the others will be hurt even worse. A very significant problem that we didn't solve in the last 20 years with SDEWES conferences is how to measure sustainability, how to ponder various metrics. This is a very complicated issue. We did a lot of results, we did excellent results, but we are still not completely sure which is the right way how to measure sustainability. There are many different methods. One has to be careful to understand what is important and when it is important. Of course, we have to take into account economic, environmental, and social pillars, but we shouldn't sum apples and pears without thinking what is important in which moment. For example, we should be careful to differentiate between problems that depend on cost, which can easily be solved with enough money, and problems that are potentially cataclysmic, like, for example, climate change. I would like to ask you, since this conference is fully online, also to help us reach the highest number of people by using hashtag SDEWES on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, wherever you can. Also tag yourself on SDEWES Center post from the conference on these two social networks. I hope that this new format of the conference will be very successful and that we will show the resilience of the conference model, and by bringing people together on this platform, and hopefully the good results will be published later on and improve the science of sustainability for a long time. Thank you.
Distinguished guests and participants, my name is Natasha Markovska, and in my capacity of a chair of SDEWES Award Committee, it is my honor to welcome you at the award session of the first Asia-Pacific SDEWES Conference, where we will jointly celebrate the great achievement of the authors of the 3 best papers. Let me first introduce my colleagues, the members of the award committee, who worked on this not an easy task to select the best of the best papers. Professor Brian Veith-Mathiesen from Aalborg University, Denmark. Professor Antonio Piacentino, University of Palermo, Italy. Professor Ingo Stadler, Cologne Institute for Renewable Energy, Germany, Professor Alexander Zidanšek, Josef Stefan Institute, Slovenia, and Professor Qiuhua Wang, Xi'an Jiaotong University, China. The Best Paper Award is granted to the authors of the 3 papers selected in a 2-phase procedure. First, all the reviewers and editors nominate candidate papers for the Best Paper Award out of the papers they are reviewing or editing. Then, each member of the award committee selects his or her 2 favorites from the candidates pool to pass into the second phase. This time we had 9 nominated papers, which directly passed in the second phase and were individually evaluated by each of the award committee members. The final ordering is made based on the average score. The winners will be awarded certificates from SDEWES and a book written by a member of the SDEWES International Scientific Committee. Let us see who our winners are. 2 best papers share the second and the third place. One of them comes from Australia. This paper proposes and validates a practical model for a compound parabolic throw solar thermal reactor for pyrolysis of waste plastic. The award goes to Peter Woodfield, the presenting author of the second best paper entitled Use of Solar Thermal Energy for Pyrolysis of Waste Plastic. The award, Sustainability in the Process Industry, Integration and Optimization, written by 2 members of the SDEWES International Scientific Committee, Professor Klemes and Professor Verbanov, will be sent to the authors by post. The other second best paper comes from China. It proposes a hydrogen leakage diagnosis method, which can be used as a supplement to the traditional method based on hydrogen concentration sensors. The award goes to its presenting and, at the same time, first author, Qiang Zhu, and the paper is titled Research on Hydrogen Leakage Diagnosis Method for the Hydrogen Tank in Fuel Cells Vehicles based on Support Vector Machine. And the award is a book written by Professor Jiří Klemes entitled Assessing and Measuring Environmental Impact and Sustainability. Is it getting tense out there? Which paper is the best of the bests? Well, the paper proves that the economic demand-supply based pricing mechanism can be applied effectively in neighborhood energy trading to help encouragement of more renewable energy sharing and avoidance of energy network debt spiral. The call for joining the virtual stage is directed to Lei Liu from Australia, the presenting author of the first best paper entitled A Novel Pricing Mechanism for Grid-Friendly Sustainable Neighborhood Energy Trading. The award is the book Renewable Energy Systems, a smart energy systems approach to the choice and modeling of 100% renewable solutions, written by Professor Henrik Lund. Coming to the end, I would like once again, on behalf of the award committee, all members of the International Center for Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environment Systems, and personally, to congratulate all the awardees and express our deepest appreciation of their great success.
Greetings to all our SDEWES Asia Pacific Conference participants, and welcome to our virtual conference. As a usual Chief of Staff on our SDEWES conferences, I have a task of giving you a few pointers or some rules for this virtual conference. SDEWES usually has a very strict policy on paper presentation. For this virtual conference, this policy will be a bit different. We still expect from presenters to be actively involved in their sessions and to answer all the questions that other participants might have regarding their presentations. We will consider all presentations with unanswered questions as non-presented, which means that presentations whose presenters did not answer all the questions raised by other participants, their presentations or papers will be cancelled. One more pointer to our moderators, to our chairs and co-chairs. I would strongly advise you to be actively involved in your sessions, to ask questions, to steer and to moderate the discussion in your sessions. And finally, for all the participants, I would invite you to look and to view as much presentations as you can. I would invite you to be actively involved and to ask as much questions as possible in order for us to have a higher interactiveness of the conference itself. At the end, I can just invite you to be actively involved in the conference, and I hope you will have a fruitful 3 days filled with a great discussions and great presentations. Till the next SDEWES conference, whether it's going to be virtual or we will meet face to face, I greet you all.